right. I can't get on Facebook. I'm so tired. I'm just so tired. I can't stand it. Jesus. Just tell me your phones.
Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Do you want a man for president who's seasoned through and through, but not so doggone seasoned that he won't try something new? A man who's old enough to know
And young enough to do.
well, it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you.
But it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Do you want a man with spirit who is not afraid to fight?
A man whose record shows that he will fight for what is right.
A loyal man who'll bring the job a fresh new point of view? Well, it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you.
Because it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
And do you deny to any man the right he's guaranteed to be elected president, no matter what his creed?
It's promised in the Bill of Rights to which we must be true.
So it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you.
And it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Do you like a man who answers straight, a man who's always fair? We'll measure him against the others, and when you compare, you cast your vote for Kennedy, and the change that's overdue. So it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you.
Yes, it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy,
Welcome from my humble second bedroom here in the Saucon Valley, part of the Lehigh Valley in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, part of these United States, at least for now, Western Hemisphere, North American continent, on this planet Earth. Only one we have. Third rock from the sun in the Terran solar system. This is TKE Tonight, the Kennedy Effect tonight for the 7th of October 2024. Time is counting down. I believe we are 28 days, I think it is. I'm not sure anymore. Honestly, I've lost track, which is not, necessarily a great thing. But I think I've lost track a little bit. But we are here. We are great. It's very humbling to be back with you. I'm not going to kid you that let me just try to catch you up relatively quickly on where we've been, what's been happening, why I've been gone for, gosh, I don't know, 10 days or so or more, almost 2 full weeks. And I don't want to, bore you with a bunch of gory details. You all have lives and things like that. But I just want to let you know where we are, where we've been, what's been going on. And I will tell you that the short story is I had surgery, kidney surgery. One of my kidneys was blocked with a stone. And if I didn't get it removed, it was going to shut down, leaving me with just one. And I can tell you that following the surgery, there were a couple days that I wish I had left myself with just one because it was that miserable. Some of you may have known I did do the program with T. Nathan and Gilbert and Gambit. Did some pre-VP debate coverage. It was the most uncomfortable 2 hours I've ever sat in this chair. It was painful. It stung. It was annoying. I basically spent 10 days trying to find just the perfect, comfortable position in my recliner where there was no pain. And then, of course, last Friday, I had a piece, kind of a corrective piece of equipment that was left inside of me. I had it removed while I was awake, which was something tantamount to barbarism. And I'm still not right. It hurts, actually, for me sitting here. And I don't say this to anybody for effect or for pity party or anything like that. It's just trying to explain to you where we've been. And it's been a hell of a 2 weeks. I mean, it's been really bad, and it's been real bad. In fact, it really has. It's been pretty awful. it has not been fun. It really, really hasn't. And I have to say, it hurt so much that I just couldn't. You would think that doing something just like this, just quote unquote, just sitting here, would be easy and would be pretty not stressful. But it was painful doing that. The one show that I did do was really, really uncomfortable and really painful. I am on the mend, such as it is. This is a problem that apparently is going to continue. I'll tell you, the other thing that happened really, if you were kind enough to tune in to the pre-debate that we did, you would notice that my voice, I struggled very much with my voice, which, last time I checked in radio was kind of something you need. That's because the breathing tube that was put down my throat during the surgery apparently scraped everything up a bit. And I didn't have a voice for a while either. Even if I felt good enough to sit here and do the program, you would never have heard a thing. Although maybe, for some of my detractors or some folks that may not particularly think this is a terribly good show, maybe that would be a good thing, because I wouldn't be able to talk as much. But that's the short story. Happy to answer questions if you should happen to have any. So I'm happy to take them if you have them. Again, I don't mind. It's not to bore you with details. I don't need anybody to feel sorry for me. I'm just glad to be back. It's nice to be back. It's nice to be here with George, where we belong, and back with you. And how are you, my friend, before we get deep into the end of the pool here? I know it's been a while.
End of the pool with sharks or end of the pool with piranhas? What is it?
Or both, just to see who gets the good meaty bits first, and then it's
I'm doing all right. I didn't do the help test for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I think 3 weeks.
It's a terrible time to take a break.
Yeah.
All I would say to you folks at home is it certainly, I can't say it wasn't planned. I had to have surgery. It was sort of planned, but I didn't think I would be gone this long. But let's, we're back now. We're under a month. In fact, we are at, I think, 28 days, if I'm not mistaken. And this day's basically over, so we're essentially at 27 days. And, it's crunch time now. It's time to take it seriously. And if you saw the header of the program, you will know that I'm still struggling with my voice, by the way. And I went back to work today. Of course, I was talking all day long. My voice is beginning to suffer. If you caught the header of the program, you will know. Well, let me get to the other business end of the program first. It's 8:13 Eastern Daylight Time. I think daylight time for another week or two more. I think it is. Not for too much longer. But Eastern Daylight Time, 8:13 p.m. here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. This is TKE Tonight, the Kennedy Effect Tonight, returning to you after a medical layoff. Tonight is the 7th of October, 2024. We are live right now on Ghost Claw Productions Radio on Facebook, Ghost Claw Productions Facebook page, which I have then shared to my personal Facebook, to that other side of information, our Facebook, our home group Facebook page. And where else did I go? I think that's it, actually. Yeah, I think that's it. And why did I do it that way? I saw someone in the chat mention why, we can't find you on Facebook. Where are you? Well, I haven't used this program in so long that it decertified one of the places that I usually share to. So, of course, there's that. Isn't that exciting? We all love when that happens. So that's a pain in the you-know-what. Perhaps, George and I will have to work on that after, which I tend to doubt that I'll have any patience to do such a thing. Where am I now? Trying to get to my own show here. We did get to share the show to 75 different places before I stopped. So we are live on Facebook, Ghost Claw Productions. We are live on my Facebook page, Jeff Kennedy, live on our home group Facebook page for all things surrounding the program, That Other Side of Information. We are live on YouTube, That Other Side of Information. We are live on Twitch, Jeff R. Kennedy, live on LinkedIn, Jeff Kennedy, and I think I covered everything. It's nice to be back with you. Thank you for being patient with us while we were out on medical leave, but we are back now. Let's get into the program. If you read the header of the program, I should mention that Donna mentions that she's watching or listening to the 60-minute interview with VP Harris in addition to listening to us. Well, that's pretty heady company. nice to know that we made it in there. I would, to be perfectly honest with you, Don, I'd listen to the VP before I'd listen to us. We'll be here all week, or at least that's the plan in case I get sick again or something else happens. But we'll be there again. But I'm glad that you are doing that. I hope that you can, post. I hope it ends up somewhere on Facebook that I can post it and show it, share it. That would be great. I don't know if that'll happen. I'm sure I can probably find it on YouTube after it's all said and done. Interesting that the media continues to put pressure on Vice President Harris to do more and more interviews when Trump continues to run around the country, lie at a staggering rate. We really are, with no real exaggeration, and I do mean that, with no real exaggeration, we are now to a point where nearly 100% of what comes out of his face is a lie. And if you caught the header of the program, I would. That's the kind of theme that I want to try to take into the program as long as I can form coherent thoughts. If you caught the header of the program, you will see that it says it's time to stop playing this. So what do I mean by that? Well, it was time to get back to work today, so of course I was up by 5:30, showered, sat in front of the TV with a cup of coffee, watch a little bit of Morning Joe before it's time to get myself together to go to work. And they, of course, any Monday morning program, news program, sports program for that matter, tends to generally be a review of the weekend, of what happened over the weekend. And that's exactly what Joe did the weekend. Well, among the things that they reviewed, in case you were unplugged over the weekend, Trump returned to Butler, Pennsylvania, the site of the first assassination attempt, and proceeded to tell his flock of sheep that Democrats were responsible for the assassination attempt against him. To which I can only say this. The President of the United States has a massive surveillance apparatus and law enforcement apparatus at his disposal. If Joe Biden wanted Donald Trump dead and ordered government agencies to do it, he wouldn't be here. Joe Biden has done nothing other than decry, defame, rail against, be emotional against, condemn, fill in proper word here, the violence, the political violence that Donald Trump has wrought on this country. And yet that animal is going to stand on stage and try to blame my party for trying to kill him. I myself on this program, as you all well know, and look, Trump wouldn't know me if he tripped over, which he's actually quite likely to do because he's losing control of his faculties. I've condemned any attempt at violence against anyone. And but I'm done. And I've talked on this program in the past about how we need to talk to each other, how we need to debate with each other, how civil discourse is not only a necessary tenet for small d democracy, but the restoration of small d democracy and the continuation of small d democracy. And I decided I'm done. I'm done now. I want to recommend a couple of documentaries to you that I was lucky enough to watch while I was laid up. One is, I'll have to get the name from Kristen because I'm suddenly, The Great Hack. It's called The Great Hack. It's on Netflix. And it is the story of the global wall breaking and the work that Cambridge Analytica did for fascists around the globe. Not just their influence in the 2016 election here in the United States, paid for in large part by Russia, but their work in 40-something countries and the Brexit vote in the UK. The other one that I would recommend is the 5-part documentary series on the Lincoln Project and their efforts in 2020 to defeat Trump. And the reason I'm going down this road is that there's a scene in the Lincoln Project documentary where the co-founders of the Lincoln Project, as well as the senior staff on a Zoom call, were they found themselves kind of backward, and they were having discussions about where to spend money, where to advertise, who are they targeting, and they seemed to kind of back themselves into a discussion about what it is they were actually trying to do as an organization. And one of the co-founders says, wait, how, we're supposed to be reaching out to people to convince them to go in a different direction. How do we do that? By shaming those very same people. How do we do that? By insulting them or name calling them, and I kind of get that. I do kind of get that. And I've spent a lot of time on this program, a lot of time, talking to you about being open and keeping those lines of communication open, and debating respectfully, and trying to make the case to some Republicans that can still be reached. And to be honest, I don't think I'm going to stop trying to make that case. But when I listened to Morning Joe this morning, because I, like a lot of you, I unplug over the weekend. I do kind of tune out of the news. I do. I don't look at every single news alert. I don't sit down and watch MSNBC for hours at a time. I don't read every single article on the Associated Press or the Guardian, or BBC, on and on and on. I just don't. I tend to unplug a bit, and I really unplugged a lot while I was ill, and when I was attempting to try to recover from the surgery, I unplugged a lot. So normally on a Monday morning when I tune into Morning Joe, I'm not necessarily having them catch me up as much as I am going through a mental checklist of thinking, what did I miss that they think is a big story? And what they spent a lot of time this morning on was Trump's return to Butler. A rally during which he said that Democrats were responsible for the assassination attempts on him. He began to suggest that if he does not win this election, now he never calls for anything specifically. This is why I think I've told you in the past that I don't think Trump is a dumb man. I think he's stupid at times, and I think he's willfully stupid about a lot of things. But I don't think he's dumb. He is an educated man. His father could afford the best of educations on his behalf. And by accident, given some of the schools he went to, he got an education. He's not dumb, but he can be, and sometimes is willfully, stupid. One of the places where you can tell that he's not stupid is the very exact, careful ways he threads the needle with language. He did not outright call for civil war in Butler, but suggested it is a method, and that it very well may have to be a quote-unquote solution to, should he not win the election. He went right up to the edge of outright calling for violence. Very much like the January 6th speech. He never stood on that podium on January 6th and flat out directly used the words, go to the Capitol and kill every elected official you find, including Mike Pence. He didn't say it that directly, but what he did say was march down to the Capitol, fight like hell. The vice president needs to stand up for us. He knows what he has to do. You know what he has to do. All of the instructions were there. They may not have been as straightforward, as direct, but clearly everyone knew what he was talking about. Greg Gutfeld of Fox News on the 5th suggested that it was time for civil war because quote-unquote elections don't work. Elections work just fine. You don't think they work because you lose. Elections can't only work when you win. An election ballot in Marjorie Taylor Greene's congressional district can't be rigged if Trump loses but she wins. Democrats are pretty effing smart. If we're going to F with an entire ballot, we'll F with an entire ballot. We won't just elect Vice President Harris and then put Republicans in control of Congress. I think we're smarter than that. But oh, by the way, since we're not rigging any elections, you see Vice President Harris as a winner and Republicans winning congressional seats because there's no rigging. There's no fraud. There's no cheating. But I think after watching what I watched this morning, and all I could think to myself is, it's time to stop playing around. It's time to call. It's time to stop ignoring the orange elephant in the room. There is, during the Cambridge Analytica documentary and the Lincoln Project documentary, by the way, they refer to a section of voters that are called persuadables. People who are still, even if they tell you that they've made up their mind, they are still open to discussion and open to possible persuasion. And I will continue until the end of this election cycle and beyond to try to reach those people and to have meaningful, calm, intelligent, science-based, data-based, historically based, truth-based discussions with these folks. They are always, always welcome here. But the thousands of sycophants and animals who are ready to shoot at everything they see, in Butler and in everywhere that this animal goes and has a rally, you're irredeemable. You're anti-American. You are sheep. You are would-be fascists. And I'm done. Poll was conducted of self-identified Republicans a couple of weeks ago. It was actually before we went on medical. 54% of Republicans. That's a majority. Not a vast majority, but a majority all the same. Would be willing for this election cycle to be the last in this country. They would welcome a dictatorship. 72% of Republicans believe that Vladimir Putin is doing a better job ruling his country than Joe Biden is running this country. Only about 18% of Republicans believe that Joe Biden is doing an even decent job of running this country. These people are now beyond redemption. They are the Israelites that Moses led out of bondage. And when Moses went up Mount Sinai to receive the commandments from God, at the bottom of the mountain, the Israelites made a calf of gold and defiled God. And God decreed that that generation of Israelites would have to wander the desert for 40 years and would not be allowed to pass into the promised land until every single one of them died. With the exception of Moses, his family, and Joshua. That's what we have now. We have 30, 35, 30, 33, 35, 38, 40% of Americans who need to pass on. And the more of them that do, the more secure democracy will be. It's time to stop playing around. Now, any Republican that wants to call this program, wants to comment in the chat, wants to have a serious debate with me about foreign policy, tax policy, terrorism, Social Security, healthcare, education, let's talk to each other. You will always, always, always be welcome here. But these people with their pickup trucks and their 65 flags off the back of them, all proudly made in China, The people who say they're for Trump because, just because. If that's the best you got, then you're ignorant. Then you're flat out ignorant. You want to know what the real election fraud is? That you're allowed to. That not being able to enunciate any type of logic for your support, I'm not so sure you shouldn't be disqualified. Now, if someone came to me and said, you know what, I'm a millionaire, I'm voting for Trump because I want a tax cut. I think it's despicable. It's certainly anti-Christian. But I'd understand it. At least I'd understand it. The poor and uneducated whites who have had everything taken from them, especially in the South, by Republicans since Nixon. You're too stupid to even tell me why you continue to vote this way. I'm done with it now. It's time for Republicans with brains. Every last single Democrat and independents, unaffiliated, green, libertarian, who actually thinks that the American experiment should continue, to wake up and stand up. It's time to cast off the irredeemables. And it's also time to stand up and shout from the mountaintops who these people really are. They can't explain anything to you. They can't tell you why they support anything or even their one orange Jesus. They just do. Because guns. Because brown people. I know you are, but what am I? It's schoolyard shit. It's childish shit. I mean, aren't we better than this now? And you might think that I might save a rant like this for after the election cycle. Why burn bridges now? First off, I'm not sure bridges to that particular segment of the population ever existed. If they did exist, it's armed with 100,000 AR-15s on the right side of the bridge. Even if I was carrying food across that bridge, they'd blow it up before I got there. I have come to the realization, and I think I'm right. I could be wrong. I'm only human. But I came to the realization this morning that it's time for a full frontal here. We really need to look in the mirror and understand what we're facing. Somewhere between, and it depends on the poll that you're looking at, by the way, a minimum really of 30%, as high as 40% of this country wants this country to cease to exist. Either because they want the Constitution suspended, they want a dictator, they think Putin would be a better president, or they want civil war. As much as 40% of this country wants the country to cease to exist. Why does that not alarm enough of us? They don't see this upcoming end of a cycle as an election. They see it as stock up on ammunition. Where does this end? Trump does not only need to be defeated by the time we all go to bed November 5th, he needs to be thoroughly defeated. He needs to be embarrassed. Speaking of embarrassment, the Department of Justice should be embarrassed that he's not in jail yet. You know, if you've listened to me long enough, I hate recycling catchphrases and so on. But sometimes things become a catchphrase because they're truthful. One of those is, you need to realize. Well, I'm not here to give you orders. I'm not that smart. But folks, we need to realize that if we were in a room with 10 people, statistics show that 4 of them would rather shoot you than talk to you. That 4 of them want violence. Not just that they're prepared for it, but they want it. And why do they want it? Because an orange-painted failed reality TV host told them so. Because he hates who they hate. Because he made it okay to be violently racist in public. And an entire right-wing media structure that backs it up. From The Hill, thehill.com, by Dominic Mastrangelo. I destroyed that name. I apologize. Dominic Mastrangelo. Sorry to Dominic. Not that he's listening, but the least we can do is try and pronounce names correctly here. Dominic Mastrangelo. And I hope I said that correctly. He is the author of this media piece written on The Hill, hill.com. It was written this morning at 9:36 and posted to their website. Headline, Scarborough, Joe Scarborough, Morning Joe, MSNBC. Trump, quote unquote, preparing for civil war. MSNBC host Joe Scarborough said Monday morning that former President Trump's rhetoric on the campaign trail signals he and his supporters are preparing for violence in the wake of the 2024 election. The host played a clip on his morning show of Trump telling a crowd of supporters over the weekend that, quote, those who want to stop us from achieving this future have slandered me, impeached me, indicted me, tried to throw me off the ballot, and who knows, maybe even tried to kill me, unquote. Quote, you know, I always say there's an enemy from within, Trump continued, but we have an enemy from within, which I think is much more dangerous than the outside enemy. He doesn't have outside enemies because he's friends with all of them. Scarborough admonished Trump and his allies, calling them, quote, increasingly desperate, with just weeks until Election Day. Quote, the level of un-American activity that you just saw is stunning. That is un-American. They know they're lying. Donald Trump knows that's a lie. He will tell you that the Secret Service, he thought, did the best job they could do. The fact that J.D. Vance and Trump's family would out and out say what they said takes the threat of violence beyond where it was even leading up to January 6th. This is an increasingly desperate person, an increasingly desperate family who is preparing for civil war. They just are. host said. Scarborough noted that Trump has still not conceded defeat in the 2020 election and warned the former president could stir civil unrest if he loses again next month. Trump continues lying about 2020, Scarborough said. Senators will not say on Sunday news shows that Donald Trump lost in 2020, despite the fact that Republican officials in every one of those states that mattered said that, yes, in fact, Donald Trump lost. Scarborough himself, a Republican, served in Congress as one. And while he calls himself a former Republican, does still align himself nearly exclusively with what used to be the Republican Party platform. Tax cuts for rich people and corporations, scaling down of government, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, to be honest with you, this was not what I was planning to talk about tonight. I was going to do what I normally do, which is come up, try to get everything running, which, for the most part, I do. Because George and I will have to play around with the Facebook after that. And take you through the top stories of the day. And I will admit I was pretty bleary-eyed this morning. I sure as hell didn't want to go back to work. I can tell you that for a fact. I really didn't. Because it's not like I didn't work for 10 days, but it's not like I got a hell of a lot of rest during it. Because I was in so much pain and discomfort during it. It's not like I enjoyed it. It wasn't a vacation. But even though I was tired, a bit bleary-eyed this morning, I had my coffee and I watched the opening to Morning Joe. And say whatever you want about MSNBC. Joe Scarborough's a Republican. He just is. Most of the people that guest on the program lean toward the right. But Joe Scarborough also wants the American dream to live. He wants American democracy to continue. And he put out a siren call this morning in a way that I think was necessary, in a way that I wish I had thought of myself. And maybe listening to him this morning gave me license to do it. I don't know. Maybe hearing Trump and hearing Fat Greg Gutfeld on Fox call for civil war, maybe it finally pissed me off enough for me to say, you know what? It's just time to stop. It's just time to stop kissing ass. It's time to stop stretching the olive branches out. Or maybe it's time to offer the olive branch but hope they choke on it. Independents, unaffiliated, Green Party, Conservative Party, Liberal Party, Libertarians, Democratic Socialists, you are all welcome here. These are all people that we need to talk to. Are you one of the brave, and I'm not kidding, brave volunteers across the country that are making phone calls, sending text messages, knocking doors? First off, God bless you. Secondly, please, I beg you to be careful. I absolutely beg you to be careful. And I will continue to speak to anybody here that is willing to have that conversation. But it's time, I think, especially as we approach the end of this cycle, to admit where we are. That's all. I think it's just time to admit where we are. I'm not sure how else to say it. We have to admit where we are. Because if we don't realize how bad it is, I don't see how we overcome it. We just simply have to be better. We just simply have to be better. And I think we have to be more realistic. And that's not easy. It's not always easy. I find myself a bit lost in my own thoughts, a bit sad at where we've come. When I've told you before, I don't believe the current incarnation of the Republican Party is a functional political party. It isn't. It's a big business. It's a corporation. And it's not a conservative party. It's a fascist party. It's an oligarchical party where rich people run everything. They own the elected officials. They own the party structure. They care nothing for the welfare of their fellow citizens and residents and environment. They care nothing for the functionality of government. They care nothing about the overall well-being of the nation as a whole. They simply want more and more and more and more and more money. They want their own interests to be the interests of the nation. That's oligarchy. That's fascism. And it is our job to reach out to every single individual, regardless of what their self-identified party affiliation is. And that is the message that we have to put out. Will this be the last election we have in this country? Will this be the end of the American experiment? Don't you think you deserve better than fascism? If the Trump Republicans should happen to take over this entire government, it is the end of our nation as we know it. And you know what, gang? That's not hyperbolic. Go read a summation. Go read the Cliff's Notes version of Project 2025. It's the end of everything. It's the end of the America that millions fought and died for. That millions today still serve proudly. And without seeking fame or fortune in doing it. We're better than this. But we have to be honest now. It's time to stop being nice. We have to be painfully, powerfully blunt and honest about what we are facing. 30 to 40% of our fellow residents of this country don't want this country. They want something completely different. They do not care about freedom. They do not care about life. They do not care about themselves. When as much as 40% of the population can be convinced that if billionaires just had more billions, everything would be okay. And oh, by the way, guess who was in Butler? Elon Musk. On stage. Like a Bond villain. Reportedly dancing in some odd way. The man has no rhythm, apparently. But you know what? Going back several weeks, we had a discussion about whether it was time to quit Twitter or not. Well, actually, I have to not, right? Who's on? Yeah, Cold Dead Hands is on after us, right, George? I really do need to finish. Well, I got less than 2 minutes. I've come to my decision, folks. Let me see if I can do it for you right now. Edit profile. Isn't that interesting, George? There's nowhere that I can find to actually delete one's profile. Am I wrong? We're under a minute, unfortunately.
Delete profile for where? For Facebook?
For X, Twitter.
Oh, for X.
I was going to do it right now, live on the air. And now that I'm looking at it, I'm realizing I don't think I can. Isn't that fascinating?
Under settings and support?
Well, I'll tell you what, folks. Let's carry this into tomorrow. Because I've reached my decision.
Yeah. It's under it's under settings and support. Deactivate your account.
Okay.
Under privacy and safety.
Well, we will take care of that. We'll do it tomorrow, live on the air.
Okay.
For everybody at GCPR, for everybody surrounding the Kennedy Effect, I'm Jeff Kennedy. We've done all the damage we can do for night for George and I. Time to say goodnight. Cold Dead Hands comes up right now on GCPR Live. GCPR Live. Cold Dead Hands with Ben and Brett starts right